Hi, I'm Brian Ellington, Chief Learning Officer for eXp Realty, and welcome to the eXp Executive Masterclass series. Now, in this series, our amazing eXp leaders share their wisdom in their various areas of expertise to help our amazing eXp agents succeed in their businesses. Today's session, we're going to be talking about taking out your head trash. Now, we can talk about sales skills all we want, but until we talk about the mental game that it takes to enact those sales skills, we're not going to have the momentum we need to go out and win and achieve our goals. So before we dive in, a little bit about me. Husband of one, father of four here in beautiful Austin, Texas. I'm a second generation realtor. I've been in this industry for over 23 years now, if you can believe it. I worked at Keller Williams for 15 years as their chief learning officer, chief products officer, chief operating officer of their international franchising. I went to Realty, now called Anywhere, and ran training and coaching for all of their various brands and company-owned stores. I also was chief operating officer and chief development officer for Century 21 for a couple of years, and ran my own successful coaching company as well before I had the amazing opportunity to come to eXp and pour into our 90,000 plus agents and help them build their careers. So, question for you right off the bat: what's holding you back from doing the things that you know you should? I bet, like most people, you might have one answer, but it might not be the exact right answer in reality. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. First, housekeeping from our legal team trying to keep us safe. Look, neither you nor I look good in orange jumpsuits, so let's make sure we're doing the right thing. If you're not sure what that is, please reach out to our amazing brokerage operations team. They will help you in any way they can. In this session in particular, we're going to be talking about outreach to people. That might involve phone calls, so please do follow those TCPA, DNC guidelines. They're there to keep you safe. And as always, you can use Dial Safe, one of the tools that we provide you here at eXp, to make sure you're calling the people that you should be calling and not calling people that you shouldn't. All right, back to our originally scheduled program. So, what's holding you back? Now, NAR says that for every 100 people you know, about 8 are going to transact this year. Every 100 people you know who are eligible to buy or sell real estate, about 8 of them will transact in any given year. Question for you: of those 8, how many are going to do business with you? Now, I'm betting, like most people, you would hope that it would be all 8. Unfortunately, it's not. Because we only get the percentage of those 8 people if we effectively communicate with them over time. And even then, we might not get our 8. So something else to think about, whatever that number might be for you. Let's just say, for example, that you're going to get 2 of those 8. Okay, pretty good. We've got a great system. We're putting that into place. We're really effectively communicating them. We're following up. But the problem is we want to do more than 2 deals, right? If we want to do 20, well, that means we need to not know 100 people. It means we need to know 1,000 people. And the math goes up from there, the bigger your goals. But that's where our job comes in, because our whole job is to expand our sphere of influence. Said differently, our whole job is to go out there and make friends with more people and help them with real estate. We have the coolest job in the world. We're not digging ditches at 3 a.m. in the rain. Now, as we're going out there and meeting people in the world, you're going to meet 2 types of people: people with immediate needs, and those are going to help fuel your business in the short term. You're also going to meet people with future needs, and those are going to be people who are going to help you in the long term if we effectively communicate with them. So let's talk about this. First question for you: have you ever had a friend, a loved one, maybe even a family member do a real estate transaction with someone else? When I was younger, I came home for the holidays to visit my mom. This was the springtime. And mom was really mad. I said, "Mom, what's wrong?" Mom said, "Gene Sample." Now, Gene Sample was our across the street neighbor. I said, "Well, what's going on with Gene?" She said, "She listed with another agent." And I said, "Mom, you did a listing appointment with Gene Sample and she chose somebody else?" And my mom said, "No, she didn't even let me do a listing appointment with her." And I said, "Mom, you asked Gene Sample to do a listing appointment and she wouldn't even let you do that?" And she said, "No, she didn't even tell me she was listing." And I said, "Mom, you've been pouring into Gene regularly, consistently, giving her value, helping her with their real estate needs, and she didn't even tell you she was going to list?" And Mom got really quiet. And I said, "Mom, when's the last time you talked with Jean Sample? And she said, well, at the Sistala's barbecue last 4th of July. I said, well, Mom, that's our whole job. And she said, well, she knows I'm in real estate. Classic, right? And I know every realtor I've ever met has had this same situation. And our first reaction is to say, well, they know I'm in real estate. Maybe, but it's really whoever's top of mind, whoever's been pouring into them the most, bringing them value. That's the person that they're going to transact with. That's the person that they're going to trust the largest transaction of their lives with. So when it comes to that, the second question is, how many of us know exactly what we should be doing in terms of outreach, but we don't? And the deeper question there is, why? Going back to the question I asked, why is that? Why don't we do the things that we should be doing? Now, I'm betting a lot of us out there are saying, well, time. I just don't have time. But here's a question for you. If I said to you, hey, if you'll fly down here to Austin, Texas every day for the next 30 days, I'm going to give you $100,000 per day. Wouldn't you make the time to do that? So is it really time or is it something else? See, our friend Carl Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will continue to control our lives and we will call it fate. And so until we're really truthful and real with ourselves about what's really holding us back, what's really stopping us from making those calls and doing the things that we should be doing to provide value and pour into our sphere of influence, we're never going to get past it. So why don't we? I'll say it's not time. I'm going to say it's confidence. For most of us, it's confidence. Every once in a while, it might be time, sure. But on a consistent basis, it's confidence. And as Zig Ziglar said, selling is essentially the transfer of confidence. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So let's talk a little bit about what erodes our confidence and, more important, what to do about it. Here's the greatest irony in sales. Who's the person that says no to you the most? Now, I was at one of the regional rallies in Cincinnati, asked this question, and one of the gentlemen there shouted out, "My wife!" Jokingly said back, well, maybe she might have a point. But the reality of it is, it's us. It's us. We're the person who says no to ourselves more often than anybody else. Before we even give them a chance to consider the question, we put the no inside their head in our own minds and say, they're just going to say no. Let me ask you a question. If you've ever been out door knocking or you've made calls and somebody's either slammed the door in your face or hung up on you, what would you call that person? What would you say about that person? Don't say it out loud. You might have kids present. So what does that say about us when we do that to ourselves? Like our friend Carl said, until we're real about this, until we become aware of how we're self-sabotaging, we're going to continue to do it over and over and over again. So let's start by naming our head trash. So what's your particular brand of head trash? Be real for a second. What does your head trash sound like? I asked this question out loud in an audience, and I got answers like, well, I don't want to come off as pushy, or they'll think I'm bothering them, or they probably know somebody else, and I might not be able to answer their questions. I was talking with a friend of mine, Elizabeth Riley, and she says, you know what, this is what I say to myself. I say I'm an introvert. What's interesting about Elizabeth is that she's amazing. She has not only a revenue share of 10,000 agents in her revenue share org, but she's also a 10-time icon here in Austin, Texas. Can you imagine somebody so powerful, somebody so connected to so many people helping change lives, and she refers to herself as an introvert? And I love what McKessie said about this, because we hear this all the time in Fast Cap. We hear agents say, well, I'm shy, I'm introverted. And what McKessie said is, you think you're an introvert because you like being alone, but in reality, you just love being at peace. And you're actually extroverted around people who bring you peace. See, we're not afraid of other people. We connect new connections with the possibility of rejection and shame and things of that nature. And that's why we act introverted. If we're around our friends, the people who bring us joy, who we can be ourselves around, we're at peace in the world. So Listen, we don't have time today to solve all of my head trauma nor yours, and I'm not qualified to do that. But there are a few things that we all share in common as individuals, as human beings, that once we understand it, we can start building coping mechanisms around it. Because let's be clear, we're not here to fix ourselves, right? I'm don't have those kinds of degrees, and we don't have that kind of time. Success isn't about being perfect. It's about putting into place coping mechanisms to help us get through the things that we need to get through and do what we need to do to be successful. So let's do that. So first, let's look at a couple of the conditions that we have as human beings that hold us back. And the first is negativity bias. So Rosen and Roisman really documented this well, two psychologists and doctorates out there who really studied this well. And here's negativity bias in a nutshell. You see the definition there on the screen. I won't bother to read it to you. Really what it is that when given things of two equal weights, we're going to focus on the negative more than the positive. The classic example of this is, imagine opening a box full of bunnies, and a bunch of cute little fuzzy furry bunnies there just to make you happy and bring joy into your world. But in the middle of that box, there's a cobra snake. Question, where are you going to focus? Now, obviously, as human beings, we're going to focus on the snake. If our great-great-grandparents hadn't had that genetic makeup, we wouldn't be here today, friends. That's how we are as humans. And it's a good thing, by the way. This is self-protection. This can really also lead to self-improvement because we don't like experiencing the negativity. The challenge, though, is this can be bad when it's an unnecessary behavioral deterrent and it leads us away from doing the things that we need to do and avoiding situations that we need to put ourselves in order to be successful. Your brain is simply trying to protect you, but in business, the safety mode actually sabotages your progress. So you may have already experienced this too. You can have a successful circle prospecting session, knocking doors around an open house, and you might get tons of new names and faces that are now part of your sphere. You might even get appointments or referrals and things of that nature. But when you go home, what one door are you going to remember the most? It's going to be that person who slammed that door in your face. Here's another aspect of this that is really interesting to understand: dread and anticipation. What Rosen and Roisman said is when you take an event that's upcoming in the future, maybe a dentist visit or going to a party, and you give them equal weight. Maybe the dentist visit is -6, but the going to the party is +6. As you draw closer to the event, the negative dread will increase at a faster rate. So that as you get to the day of your dentist visit, that -6 might turn into a -9, whereas when you're at the day of the party, that +6 might only be a +7. Why am I talking about all this? Well, because we have to understand what's going on inside of our minds as we go to get into the lead generating mode in our business, and why we're feeling the anxiety and the dread, and why it seems to amp up the closer that we get to those. And so we allow ourselves to excuse ourselves out of those activities. Now, you also couple this with confirmation bias, and confirmation bias is simply that we look for confirmation evidence more than we look for contrary evidence. When we hold a belief, we tend to look for those things that confirm our belief more than deny our belief. This, by the way, is why when you go on social media, Instagram, YouTube, whatever your social media of choice is, they're not going to serve you up posts of competing political parties to your views, competing religions to your religion, because they don't want to deter you. They know you're just looking for the things to confirm the beliefs that you have. Interesting, isn't it? But when you put it into the context of this negativity bias, what we're saying is we're looking for the negative situations, we're anticipating those more, and we're looking for confirmation of our negative beliefs of those situations to confirm that, yeah, I really shouldn't do those things. Now, hold that in mind, because I want to talk about one more thing, and that's orders of intentionality. Now, this is from the theory of mind, and really what we're talking about is our level of awareness of our own thoughts and the thinking of others. There's a great word called sonder, which is the realization that we're not the main character of other people's lives. They are, just like we are. So order of intentionality go up in increasing orders, and they sound like this. First order of intentionality, I think. I'm aware of my thoughts. I think you're cool. The second order of intentionality is I think you think. Now we're making assumptions about what's going on inside other people's heads. I think you think I'm annoying or a sleazy salesperson or whatever the case might be. Third order of intentionality, I think you think I think. I think you think I think I'm going to get away with getting you to underprice your home just so I can get my commission check quicker. Fourth order, I think you think, so on and so forth. Most of us can hold about 5 to 6 orders of intentionality in our head before we have to write it down, right? Now, what's interesting about this is which one of these can we get wrong? And the answer is actually all of them, including the first one, our awareness of our own thoughts. That's why there are psychotherapists, psychoanalysts, psychologists, and psychiatrists, right? But what's interesting, though, is as we move up in orders of intentionality and we start making assumptions more and more in those orders, we tend to get them wrong at a faster and faster clip. When you put all of this together, that we're making assumptions about what other people are thinking and what they're thinking, we're thinking, and so forth, and we have a negativity bias as human beings, what do you think more often than not we're assuming other people are thinking about us? Positive thoughts or negative thoughts? Obviously negative thoughts, right? So once we understand that, then we can start to understand why we talk ourselves out of things like calling our sphere of influence. Because go back to who says no to us more than anybody else? We do. We put that no into their head before we ever even give them a chance to consider. And it's why also, too, we refuse to get in front of a camera and post videos of ourselves on social media so that we can get out there, inform, and add value to people. We say things like, well, I don't like the way I look, or I don't like the way I sound, or people are going to judge the way I look, or people are going to judge the way I sound. Well, I got news for you. You're walking around in the world right now looking and sounding the way you do. So am I, friends. And if I can do it, you can too. But what ends up happening when we allow these negative thoughts to enter into our minds and we go through these cycles is we do absolutely nothing that we should be doing, or at least little of it. And so we don't experience the successes that we want in our business. So what do we do about that? Well, the first thing is, however you need to hear this, you need to hear this. I don't know in what real estate licensing class they've been teaching this. They didn't teach it in Principles 1, Principles 2, or any of the other licensing classes I took here in Texas. But apparently they're teaching real estate agents that they're supposed to come out and everybody in the world is going to love them. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. Well, what's really interesting is when you look at successful real estate agents, what they've learned is find their vibe and they find their tribe. I can tell you agent after agent who have been highly successful just by finding the right niches. Now, a lot of times you say that to especially newer agents and they say, well, but won't I be limiting the fishing hole that I'll be fishing out of? Maybe, but just understand nobody's telling you that you only have to have one fishing line. Think about Procter & Gamble for a second. They mastered toothpaste. Then they mastered dental floss. Then they mastered baby powder, so on and so forth. Bunches of lines of business. And that's what you see when you see multiple niches within a successful agent's business. So I know one agent who has a very successful Facebook group for moms, but they also have very successful Facebook groups for this community. I know one agent who has a successful Facebook group for French bulldogs. French bulldogs. Think of that as a niche. But she's killing it as the real estate agent in that group. Now, she also has multiple niches as well. And so when we think about this, however you need to understand this, we need to understand that our job isn't to make everybody like us. My favorite here is Colin Powell's quote, if everybody likes you, you have a serious problem. And you would if that were the case, right? You would have a serious psychological problem. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we're not trying to please everybody and be everybody's favorite person. We're really trying to find our tribe. And then once we do, we can begin to build a bridge and get over ourselves. Question for you. Congratulations, you just won 2 winning lottery tickets, $10,000 each, by the way. Oh, but wait, One catch. The state lottery commission called, and they're only going to allow you to cash one of those. It's in the rules. Sorry. And by the way, you can't give the other winning lottery ticket to anybody in your immediate family or circle. You have to call somebody that you're only acquaintances with. Now, my question is, how reluctant are you going to be to pick up the phone and call that person and give them $10,000? Probably not very reluctant at all, right? So consider the average agent for just a second, okay? Average agent. Got them in your head? You know them in your market. You might have done transactions with them. Now, compared to them, if somebody were to do a transaction with you, wouldn't you save them or make them $10,000 more than that other agent would? I'm betting you would say yes. And so when we think about the value that we bring, just understand, just like that $10,000 lottery ticket, you've got a lot of value to bring. And it's not ethereal either. This is something that we can be doing on a consistent basis. And if you're not sure how to bring great value to clients or prospective clients, get into programs like FastCap. We'll literally give you great value that you can go deliver to those individuals. The second thing here to build that bridge and get over ourselves, just decide. Now, here's the truth. When you think about this, you can decide what you want people to think about you and act like that's true. You can decide that people think you're amazing and such a great real estate agent who's out there helping people, and act like that's true. Now, that might sound pretty new agey to you. I get that. But here's the reality. You're already doing it. Unfortunately, though, those puppets inside your head, you're making them say mean things instead of good things. So you can choose to make those puppets say great things about you and act accordingly. Now, listen, I wish I could teach you how to turn off those negative puppets. I don't know how to do that. If I did, I'd be making a gajillion dollars in pharmaceuticals or psychology. And I also want to say, too, this is not going to feel natural at first, and it's not going to come easy at first to counteract those voices, right? It's going to feel awkward, but so does everything in the beginning. Anything that you've mastered, if you've mastered a hobby or a musical instrument or whatever, it feels awkward at first, and it takes time to really master it. But what else could you possibly master that would be more impactful in your life and in your business than mastering your own thoughts about yourself and how other people view you? It is worth the effort and the time it will take for you to control those puppets and do what you need to do. The next one is often referred to as the 5-second rule. Mel Robbins wrote a book about this. And it's really when we're confronted with something that's giving us friction, that's giving us hesitancy, is just think about what the next logical step is, the smallest step we can take, and count backwards from 5 and do it. I refer to this as the deep end approach of the pool. You just jump in, right? Now, the thing about it is that next step for a lot of us might just be knocking the door or pressing call on that contact that we have. And then if you're not sure what to say, look, there's plenty of resources out there through the university, but here's the most powerful script I learned from a guy named Tony DeCello. Hi, Brian Ellington. Good to talk with you. If you want to write that down, I'll send it to you afterwards, right? Listen, just get into conversation with people and be there to deliver value. You're going to be just fine. And I highly do encourage you to learn great scripts, and we'll talk about some of those in just a little bit to give you some great ideas about how to start those conversations. Now, number 4 here, there are going to be those people who are not your tribe. They are just not your people, and they're going to let you know sometimes in a little rude way. And in those instances, we have one of 2 choices. Number 1, we can let it impact us, and we can let it deter us and throw us off our game that day and future days, or we can reset ourselves in the moment and get right back to it, understanding that they are not our tribe, and then having some great reset mechanism in our life. Now, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is one such reset mechanism, but there's plenty of others out there. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Now, all we're doing here is just distracting ourselves. We're grounding our mind in other thoughts and getting it off of the negativity. into something more positive so that we can get back to the mental state that we need to be in to be successful. The next one, future pacing. And here I'll talk about my man, Oliver here. The picture you see on the screen is my now 9-year-old son, Oliver. Last November, Oliver came to me and wanted to do jujitsu. His big brother did jujitsu, his big sister did jujitsu, and he wanted to do jujitsu. Now that was November. February, 3 months later, they were going to have their first tournament in the area, and Oliver wanted to compete in the tournament. Now he was low man on the totem pole in terms of rank, in terms of the people he was going to be up against in this tournament. So my wife and I wanted to set his expectations. We talked to him about treating it like a learning experience so that he would understand how tournaments work, and he was really nervous. And so we just wanted him to kind of focus on learning from the opportunity. But he was really inside of his head. So right before his first match, I pulled him aside and I said, Oliver, when the referee lines you up against your opponent, he's going to put you facing one another and he's going to say, combate. What's going to be the first thing you do? And he said, I'm going to take him down. Great. What takedown are you going to use? A double leg. Okay, great. Then what are you going to do? I'm going to pass his guard. Okay, then great. What are you going to do then? I'm going to mount. Wait a second. What do we do after we pass guard? Oh, right. That's right. Get side control. Right. Okay. So we lock down side control and then what? Then mount. So on and so on and so forth. Now, when the referee said, combate, what do you think Oliver did? If you can't tell, he's standing on the podium in the number one spot with a big gold medal around his neck. He did exactly what we visualized in his preparation. And that's why sports psychologists use visualization as a technique when they're consulting their athletes that they work with. It's a very positive technique of helping you think through what's coming and what you're going to do about it in advance so that we not only not get caught up in the moment, but that we have the confidence to even act in the first place. The next one is pregame ritual. And if you've ever been an athlete in a team sport, you've seen some pretty weird stuff in the locker room. People triple kissing things and saying chants and things like that. Listen, having a great pregame ritual, though, can get you in the right mindset. So here I'll talk about Oliver again. Before the tournament, he was super nervous. And my wife says, Oliver, you know what helps with anxiety? He said, no, what? Sour Patch Kids. Yeah, Sour Patch Kids. So my wife buys him a big bag of Sour Patch Kids right before the tournament. So Oliver, right before his first match, was, Dad, I'm super nervous. I think I need 2 Sour Patch Kids. Give him 2 Sour Patch Kids, and for his next match, right? We're walking out to the car afterward, and he's got a big gold medal around his neck and an even bigger grin on his face. And he goes, hey, Dad, they've got another tournament coming up pretty soon. I'm going to need some more Sour Patch Kids. Pre-game rituals, whatever it takes to get you in the right frame of mind, to get you distracted from your thoughts and focused on what you need to go do that. Now, finally, rewards. So if I said to you, pick up your phone right now, make at least 5 phone calls, and I'm giving you $10,000 no matter what happens right now, ready, go. Most people would take that bet. Why? Because the reward is connected immediately to the activity. Here's the thing about good habits and bad habits. And James Clear talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits. When we talk about bad habits, most bad habits have the inverse of 2 things from good habits, reward and challenges. When you think about bad habits, most of them have immediate reward, long-term consequences. Smoking, drugs, drinking, chocolate chip cookies, love those. You can eat a lot of chocolate chip cookies right now and they taste good. You keep doing that over time, though, and you're going to have health challenges. This is why bad habits are so easy to set and so hard to break, because that reward is right there in the moment. Good habits, unfortunately, can often have the inverse relationship. Immediate challenge, immediate pain, long-term reward. Think about going to the gym, eating salads instead of cake. It doesn't feel good in the moment, and it takes a while for things to show up. It's why January 2nd, the gyms are empty again. So when we talk about setting good habits, we have to have some version of an immediate reward that's in line with the habit that we're trying to set so that we can reinforce that habit. And when we talk about real estate, what we also have to understand is we have a very long sales cycle, 100 days. from when we find a ready, willing, and able buyer and seller. And on top of that, there's the time it takes to find that ready, willing, and able buyer or seller. And that's a long time to go from the activity to the reward. So how can we then bring that reward, or at least some reward, closer to the activity? Now, in FastCap, we talk to them about having real talks, daily conversations with prospective clients about real estate. And we narrowly define what that means. You talk about real estate, you talk about referrals, you offer value, you set a next follow-up date. That's a real talk. Now, for fast cappers, we ask them, what kind of immediate reward could you put in place? And we get a lot of great answers. Like some people say, well, if I do my real talks for today, I'm going to binge watch a Netflix show, or I'm going to do this with my spouse, or whatever. Great. That's great. Go to dinner, have fun, and then be ready to do it again tomorrow. A couple of things about this. The reward has to be in line with what you're trying to accomplish. For instance, going to the gym, if you immediately get in your car and start eating chocolate cake, that's not going to help you get to your goal, right? So when we talk about goals for your real estate business, we've had people in FastCap say, well, I'm going to have some wine. Okay, maybe one glass, maybe, but let's not make that a habit, and let's keep it to one so that we're ready to do this all over again tomorrow. So my question for you would be, what short-term reward can you set up for yourself on a daily basis so that when you do the things that you're supposed to do, you get that right, that privilege, that reward to help you set that habit so that you're rewarding the activity just like you would reward the result long-term. You know, most people, when they say, I got a huge commission check, they're going to go celebrate, take their spouse or significant other to dinner or something like that, right? So keep the reward in line with the activity, but set one for yourself. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about our head trash, let's talk about how we get into these relationships. And I jokingly asked a group at the regional rally, tell me the class in school again that they taught you how to connect with people and how to build relationships. Most of us, we had to learn that the hard way, and some of us still struggle with this. Some of us tell ourselves those lies like, I'm an introvert, or, I'm going to be bothering people. So first, let's talk about the right words. So another big part of our head trash is, I don't know what to say. Listen, there's going to be several points of interaction among your leads, your clients, and even with the co-op agents where you're going to be asked to negotiate, you're going to be asked pointed questions, and people are going to give you objections, smoke screens, deflections, and conditions. And we know what the vast majority of those moments are. We know that we're going to get commission objections. We know that we're going to get pricing objections and price reduction objections. We know we're going to have issues with the inspection that we're going to have to prep our clients for, or talk about our clients on the other side of the transaction and help that co-op agent prep their clients for it. Here's the truth. You hear people sometimes say, well, I don't like scripts. I get it. But just understand, nobody is asking you to read a script to anyone. Scripts are simply about helping you future pace, helping you understand where you want to take a dialogue and how you're going to get there with little script nuggets. And here's the reality. We do not rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. That's from Archilochus some thousands of years ago, and it is very true today. If you're waiting in the moment to figure out what you're going to say, good luck. As a married man, I can tell you that's not a smart thing when you know some of the questions your spouse or your significant other is going to ask you. You better have a good answer to questions like, what do you think of this outfit? And other things of that nature. So when we talk about this, just first, let me just say that before this episode, your family called me, your kids called me, and they asked me to tell you to stop using the phrase, when's a good time for you? Listen, a much better way of dealing with that question is to suggest a couple of times, because it allows them to start naming times that either conflict with other appointments or ensure that you will miss moments that truly matter when we ask questions like, when are you available, or what time works for you? What we're going to ask them instead is, we're going to say, hey, would tomorrow at 4 or Thursday at 3 work better for you? And it doesn't matter if either one of those times doesn't work, because then we're going to just suggest 2 more. This is how we keep control of our schedule and manage our lives. Other questions that we ask, hey, let me know if you have any questions, or when people walk in our open house, hey, can I help you? just assume the answer is going to be, no thanks, just looking. So instead, have some better questions that get you past those. Like, may I share what others usually ask at this point about this house? Or here's how I've helped someone in a similar situation. And that way you avoid these pitfalls of these trite answers that you're going to get back, the deflections, the smoke screens, and you can get into real conversations. Okay. So those of you who've lied to yourself and told yourself, I'm shy, I'm introverted, I'm socially awkward, let's talk about 7 easy conversation starters. As we get into this, the key is always making this authentically you. So you see some words up on the screen. Adjust these according to you, your customers, and your behavioral style. But these are 7 easy ways to open up a conversation. The first is make an observation. And here I'm going to share a technique called elicitation. Now, elicitation is used in negotiations, sometimes in interrogations, but it's a great sales technique as well. When you're trying to uncover information that the other side might be hesitant to share, instead of asking a question which can raise their alarms and their defenses, all you do is simply assert something with the intention that they are going to correct you. Turns out people love to correct us, right? So for example, here you see on the screen, hey, this neighborhood has a great amenity center. How long have you lived here? Now, if you're at a cocktail party or an open house, chances are they don't live there. But that's okay, because they're going to tell you one of 2 things. Either one, oh, I don't live here, I live over in Ledgestone. Or 2, they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, I've lived here for 15 years. In fact, we raised our kids and they went to college just around the corner, blah, blah, blah. Either way the conversation goes, now we've got an in that we can follow up on. Oh, your kids have gone to college. Now we can talk about downsizing and the equity in their home and getting them into something more appropriate for them. Number 2, giving a genuine compliment. Now, I got to warn us here. We are never, ever going to compliment somebody on their physical appearance or anything that they're dressed in. What we're going to talk about is something they control or their choices, right? Decor, their garden, something that they really have made a choice and it's obvious that they're passionate about. But when you can give genuine compliments, it really softens people up and makes them more open for you. Next is ask for an opinion. And we've been interviewing so many agents for lead generation. And this is a great strategy, especially on social media. I know agents who've used this strategy where they go on Facebook groups and ask for opinion. Hey, who's got the best pizza in town? And when people comment on it, it allows them to do 2 things. One is create a community guide that then they can offer out as a lead magnet. Greatest restaurants in the area, greatest handy people in the area, greatest schools, so on and so forth. And it's all fueled by the community. But second, and even more important, now we're creating engagement online. Now we can interact with those people who comment and say, thanks so much. Why do you like Via 313 so much? And begin building rapport with them. This is a great technique for really taking those online communities and getting individuals to raise their hand and interact with you. Number 4, use a lighthearted icebreaker. I just do open houses for the Cookie and Real Estate Chat. How about you? Listen, hey, welcome to the open house, please sign in is not exactly the best way to build rapport. Had a great conversation with Sean Getty, one of our top team leaders in Canada. And he talked about being coffee worthy. And he said, when people come into an open house, I'm not going to talk about real estate until I'm coffee worthy with them, meaning until they're comfortable enough that they would go have coffee with me. And so engaging them and really having a great conversational banter with them is a really great way of breaking the ice and getting to know somebody. Number 5, ask about their favorite topic. Here's what's interesting. Harvard published a study in 2012, and here's what they said. Our favorite topic is us. In fact, 30 to 60% of what we talk about on a day-to-day basis is us. So when it comes to talking to people about their favorite topic, again, we can use things like elicitation. Oh, you grew up in Austin? Well, by the way, nobody grows up in Austin, apparently. There's like 3 people that were born here. But it's a great opportunity for them to say, oh, no, I grew up over here. Oh, really? Well, what brought you to Austin? jobs, family, so on and so forth. And now we've got a conversation. Number 6, finding common ground. And this is another great way to do this. And a lot of times we do this naturally as salespeople, but a word of caution about this. Have you ever been in a conversation where somebody asked you a question, and as soon as you started trying to answer it, they immediately took the conversation stick from you and started talking and answering their own question? That can be really off-putting. So a better way to do this is when somebody is talking, and instead of saying, "Oh, really? You're from Austin? Me too. I grew up here. I love here. Blah, 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 blah." "Oh, really? You're from Austin? So what do you like better, Via 313 or Stonies?" "Oh, Via 313. I knew it. Is it the Detroiter?" Now they know I know Austin. I'm not telling them that. And I'm keeping the talking stick in their hand as much as possible and engaging on the topics that they want to talk about. And then finally, number 7, vulnerability helps. Listen, again, find your vibe and you'll find your tribe. If you're one of those people who tell yourself, "I'm introverted, I'm shy, I don't want to try to have a conversation with a ton of people," pick out the person at the punch bowl and go have a conversation with them. Hey, every time I go to these places, I forget what to say or how to even talk to human beings. What's your favorite opening line? Great way to connect with people and make them know that you're part of their tribe. Okay, so once we get the conversation going, now we got to talk about sticking the landing. So let's talk about how to get the digits or the email or whatever without making it weird. So there's a few different approaches we can use here. Let's continue this approach. If you're having a great conversation, let them know it was a great conversation. I'd love to keep this convo going. What's the best way to stay in touch? This feels casual, open-ended, and it feels collaborative. The "I've got something for you" hook. "Oh, it's so interesting you mentioned that. I've got a resource I think you would love that I give my clients who refer me. Can I text it to you?" It gives them a reason to say yes. And by the way, the subtext there is, my clients love me so much, they refer me things, and I spoil them with great resources. The next time move. "Hey, next time we're both at something like this, we should reconnect. Hey, want to trade info?" Again, this is future-oriented. It doesn't feel intimidating, like I'm going to call you tomorrow or anything like that. And it feels like a mutual opportunity to continue this good vibe that we got going. The let's collaborate angle. Now, especially when you're talking to folks in trades that are related to real estate, general contracting, painters, landscapers, so on and so forth, this is a great opportunity for you to use this. "Hey, it sounds like we've got some sort of overlap in our businesses. Mind if I grab your contact info just in case something clicks, or I've got a client who might need your services? And oh, by the way, if you've got somebody who needs a great realtor, I'd love it if you'd refer them to me." The social first pivot. Now, my 13-year-old tells me that they no longer ask for phone numbers on dating anymore. They ask for social media. So here's a great way to get in touch with them after the event without feeling too intrusive and asking for phone numbers or whatever. Are you on Instagram or LinkedIn? I normally connect with people on Instagram, but I'm on LinkedIn too. Easy, low friction entry. They can leave you on red if they wanted to. But again, as long as we're bringing great value to the conversation, they probably won't. Pro tip for you: lead with confidence, not apology. Make it sound like the most normal, natural next step, because it is. And remember what our friend Zig Ziglar said: selling is essentially the transfer of confidence. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. All right, before I leave you, I want to tell you a quick story. This is a picture of Wilma Rudolph. If you're not familiar, Wilma Rudolph was born in 1940. Now, unfortunately for Wilma, at the age of 4, she developed polio, and the net result was that she had paralysis in her left leg. In fact, they had to use one of those old-time braces with the leather straps and the metal bands that went her whole entire leg length. Now, that was the age of 4. And as you can well imagine, as a kid growing up, watching all of her friends run and play, it was really disheartening to her. So at the age of 12, against doctors' better wishes, Wilma decided she was going to take off the brace and teach herself to walk. Well, by the age of 16, Wilma was not just walking, she was running track. Excuse me, I misspoke. Wilma was winning state at track at the age of 16, and by the way, qualified for the Olympics. When she went to the Olympics in 1960 in Rome, this little girl, who wasn't even supposed to walk, ran like hell against the fastest women in the world, and she won. Oh, I misspoke. Sorry. She won 3 gold medals, and she was the first U.S. women's Olympian to do it. And oh, by the way, she also set 2 world records, becoming the world's fastest woman. Sometimes our limitations are real. And for those, we need to build in great coping mechanisms to help ourselves build the bridge and get over ourselves. Some of our limitations, though, are placed on us, either by others or sometimes by ourselves. And the sooner we can learn to set those aside and run like hell after our goals, the sooner we're going to hit them. Thank you for being part of this. I really appreciate it. If we can help you in any way, please reach out and let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time here on Executive Masterclass. Thank you.